What's going on, everybody? This is Tyler Anderson from Tyler's Real Fishing and Lucky Tackle Box, and today I'm going to be explaining to you guys how to fish the SkinnyBear baits, big boy spinnerbait, by talking about rigging, retrieval, and location. Let's get started. So to start off with rigging the spinnerbait, there's really not a whole lot that needs to be done. All you basically do is tie your line. I use a Palomar knot with fluorocarbon right to the bend there in the spinnerbait, and then you just cast it out there and start working it. So we'll talk about retrieval here in a second, but let's touch on one or two things that I do to make sure I catch more fish on each spinnerbait that I throw. Now this SkinnyBear spinnerbait comes with a great 6/0, very strong wire mustad hook, but everything that I do to almost every spinnerbait or buzzbait that I throw is at a trailer hook onto the end. And so basically what I do is I take a little piece of, I don't know what kind of rubber, wire coating this is, but you basically put it on the end of the hook, the end of the eye, right through like that, and then you have an extra 2 inches called a trailer hook that allows you to catch even more fish on your spinnerbaits if the fish are short striking it or not quite eating it all the way. So after I've rigged up a trailer hook, I have to decide what kind of gear to throw this on. Now this is called the big boy spinnerbait, and that's because it is a big boy. I think it weighs 3/4 ounce, I think that's what the box said, and I tried throwing it on a 12-pound line and it just didn't feel quite right. It felt like it was too heavy for that, and so I moved to the Lew's Pro Magnesium, any reel works, any Lew's reel, with 17-pound fluorocarbon and a 7.2 heavy Lew's custom rod, and it felt a whole lot better on the cast and the retrieve. So with this bait, because it's called the big boy spinnerbait, you're gonna have to throw bigger, strength gear to catch big fish on this bait. So retrieval on a spinnerbait is pretty simple. Any of you guys know out there that fish farm ponds or regular lakes at all, spinnerbaits work almost all the time. Now, if you're a fan of Tyler's Real Fishing, my YouTube channel, you'll know that I hated spinnerbaits for so many years. Really, I kind of secretly liked them because they did work. They did catch fish in certain scenarios. In ponds like this, almost every day you can go out there and throw fish and catch fish throwing a spinnerbait. So basically all I'm gonna do is cast it out there and work it back in, give it some occasional jerks, maybe a hard jerk and let it pause, something like that. So let's get on the water and see it in action. All right, so when retrieving this bait, I don't like to give it a whole lot of action. Spinnerbaits in themselves, with the skirt and the blades, have a whole lot of action to start with. And so all I like to do is basically a basic reel in with occasional jerks, just to kind of flare up the skirt, give the fish a different look. And especially with this big bait, any movement that you make is not going to accentuate the bait a whole lot. So if you make a movement, you really have to jerk the rod hard to get that bait to move. So another key about retrieval with this bait is that you really have to set the hook hard. So they've included a very strong wired hook, which means it's not going to break against a big fish, but it also means you have to set it really hard into those big fish. So if had a stick. If I get a bite, I'm going to have to really rail into them and set the hook hard to get that fish in. So now that we know how to catch fish on the big bear spinnerbait, you might be wondering, Tyler, what about location? Now, of course, with a big spinnerbait like this, it's not going to apply in all circumstances, but the biggest circumstance that it will apply in is dirty water. Fish feed based on vibrations and the senses they have on their lateral lines, and a big bait like the big boy spinnerbait, my SkinnyBear baits, is a great bait to throw in, especially dirty ponds like the one I'm at today. So let's head on the water and see where to fish this bait. So when talking about location fishing this big guy spinnerbait, of course I always like to point out natural points, natural cuts, long flats with differences in them, and of course those are all great ways to catch fish with any sort of bait that I teach you guys. But today I'm going to talk about water clarity. Because this bait is so big and has so much action, it excels in dirty water. And you might ask, why is that, Tyler? Well, that is because in dirty water, bass can't see much, and so they really rely on vibrations and size and really like silhouettes to feed. And so a big bait like this big guy spinnerbait is going to be great in dirty water for catching those big fish. Now this tip here can fit into both retrieval and location. It's about paralleling, and if you guys know anything about parallel lines, they run even to each other right alongside. And so basically what paralleling means is making your casts practically even with the shoreline. That way you cover as much of the strike zone as possible. So if you know you've been getting your bites 5 feet off the shoreline, try to make sure you cast your bait down the shore so it's in that 5-foot zone for as long as possible. That way you're going to maximize the amount of time that you have to catch those fish. If you're constantly casting out in the middle of the lake, you're not using your time effectively in covering water. So another great place to catch fish is places that have running water flowing into them. We have a fountain here, as you can hear and see, flowing into the pond here, which creates more oxygen for those fish and basically more oxygen for the entire ecosystem. So hopefully these fish are stacked up in here right next to the fountain. Oftentimes you have to make repetitive casts at these areas in order to get these fish to bite. Because I see them swirling, I see the fish around here, but they're just not eating. Gotta get them fired up. And then they all eat at the same time. Got one, yes. Like I said, you have to make repetitive casts in areas like this where fish are stacked up. Because oftentimes when you get one, you fire up the rest of the pack. Sweet. Nice fish. Not a giant as I implied they would only catch. They catch small fish as well, but good largemouth on the big guy spinnerbait. Sweet. See ya, homie. Oh, wrong way. There you go. You got one. I made a different angled cast and got this fish. That's pretty cool. I knew these fish, they got fired up for a second, but only from one angle. So I switched angles and got another one on the spinnerbait. Just your classic pond lure spinnerbait always catches fish. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, of course, hit the subscribe button here on Lucky Tackle Box's YouTube channel and hop over to my channel that's linked in the description below called Tyler's Real Fishing. I make all sorts of cool fishing instructionals and fishing vlogs. We'll hope to see you guys over there. Now, if you are not a Lucky Tackle Box subscriber for the actual tackle box, you guys should. There's a discount code to get 15% off down in the description below, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.